The call came on a Thursday evening, 2 weeks before my father's retirement party. I was in my home office, reviewing the final terms of our acquisition of a mid-sized manufacturing firm in Ohio, when my phone rang. My sister, Vanessa. Hey, V. Lauren, we need to talk about Dad's retirement party. I set down my pen. Okay, what's up? So, you know I'm bringing Derek, right? My boyfriend. You've mentioned him. I never actually met Derek, but Vanessa had been talking about him nonstop for the past 3 months. Derek this, Derek that. VP of operations at some consulting firm. MBA from Wharton. Drove a Porsche.
Right.
Well, Derek is kind of a big deal in the business world. He's very accomplished, very connected. He works with Fortune 500 executives. That's great, V. The thing is, she paused. Derek is going to be meeting Dad's colleagues from the firm and some of Mom and Dad's friends from the country club. Important people. First impressions matter. I already knew where this was going. And you think I'm going to make a bad impression? It's not that you'd make a bad impression exactly. It's just that, well, you're a teacher. And that's wonderful, it really is. But Derek's world is very corporate, very high level. Having my older sister there as an elementary school teacher, it might make me look less successful by comparison. I leaned back in my chair. So, you want me to skip Dad's retirement party because my job embarrasses you? Don't say it like that. It's not about embarrassment. It's about optics. Derek is meeting my family for the first time at a really important event. I want him to see us as successful, accomplished people. And I don't fit that image. Lauren, come on. You live in a tiny apartment. You drive that old Honda. You spend your weekends grading papers. Derek works with CEOs and board members. There's just a gap, you know? I said nothing. Mom and Dad agree with me. They think it might be better if you sit this one out. We can do a separate celebration with you and Dad another time. Just something small and casual. Mom and Dad agreed to this?
Yes.
They understand that this is a big moment for me and Derek. They don't want anything to complicate it. I looked around my home office. The office in my 3,000 square foot penthouse overlooking the harbor. The office with original artwork on the walls and a view that cost me $4 million. I understand completely, I said calmly. Really? Oh, thank God. I was worried you'd make this difficult. No difficulty at all. Enjoy the party, V. Thank you for being mature about this. I knew you'd get it. We'll definitely do something with Dad soon, okay? Just us.
Sure.
After we hung up, I returned to the acquisition documents. The manufacturing firm we were buying had revenue of $87 million annually. The purchase price was $212 million. I was the CEO of Stratton Industrial Holdings, a private equity firm specializing in manufacturing and industrial companies. We had a portfolio worth approximately $1.8 billion. I'd founded the company 9 years ago with money I'd saved from my first job in investment banking. My personal net worth was somewhere around $430 million. But to my family, I was just Lauren, the elementary school teacher. Because that's what I'd told them I did. I hadn't exactly lied to my family about my career. I just let them believe what they wanted to believe. When I'd left my investment banking job 9 years ago to start Stratton Industrial Holdings, I tried to explain what I was doing. Private equity. Acquiring undervalued manufacturing companies. Restructuring operations. Improving efficiency and profitability. My father, who'd spent 40 years as a partner at a mid-sized law firm, had looked confused. So, you're buying factories? I'm buying companies that own factories and making them more valuable. With what money? Investors. I raised $30 million from institutional investors and high-net-worth individuals. He'd frowned. That sounds very risky, Lauren. You had a stable job at Goldman. Why would you give that up for something so uncertain? My mother had been more direct. How are you going to pay your bills while you're doing this startup thing? I have savings, Mom, and the firm pays me a salary. What kind of salary?
Ideas y tata.
At the time, I was paying myself $200,000 a year, modest for a CEO, but more than enough to live on. Enough, I'd said. Vanessa, who was in her first year of business school at the time, had rolled her eyes. Lauren, you should have stayed at Goldman. Private equity is so risky. Most firms fail. Most firms aren't run by someone with my experience and network. But they'd already tuned out. My father had changed the subject to Vanessa's MBA program. My mother had started talking about their upcoming vacation. I tried a few more times over the following months to explain what I was doing, but their eyes always glazed over. Corporate acquisitions, EBITDA multiples, operational improvements. It was boring to them. Then, about 6 months after I'd started Stratton, I'd gone to dinner with my family. Vanessa had asked what I was doing for work. Still with the investment firm, I'd said, "Are you making any money yet?" "Some." My mother had sighed. "You know, Lauren, there's no shame in getting a regular job. Maybe teaching? You were always good with kids. Teachers have stable salaries and good benefits." And something had snapped in me. Not anger, exactly. More like resignation. They didn't want to understand what I did. They wanted me to fit into a box they comprehended. So I'd give them that box. "Actually," I'd said, "I've been thinking about teaching. Elementary school, maybe." My mother had lit up. "Really? Oh, Lauren, that would be wonderful. So much more stable than this startup thing." "My friend from college is a principal." I'd improvised. "She mentioned they might have an opening. You should definitely pursue that." And so the lie had been born. Not from malice, but from exhaustion. I'd told them I was applying for teaching positions. They'd been thrilled. When I told them I'd gotten a job at a local elementary school, they'd celebrated. In reality, I'd closed my first acquisition, a struggling automotive parts manufacturer that I'd turned around and sold for a $40 million profit. For the next 9 years, I'd maintain the fiction. I'd talk vaguely about my students and grading papers. I'd dress casually when I saw them. I'd drive my old Honda Civic from college, the one I kept in my building's garage for sentimental reasons. Meanwhile, I was building an empire. Stratton Industrial Holdings had grown from 1 acquisition to 17. Our portfolio companies employed over 4,000 people across 8 states. We'd generated returns that made our investors very, very happy. I'd been featured in Private Equity International, Forbes, and the Wall Street Journal. I'd spoken at industry conferences. I'd been named to several 40 under 40 lists. But I'd done it all under the radar, at least as far as my family was concerned. They didn't read Private Equity International. They didn't follow industry news. They had no idea. And I preferred it that way. It had become a test, in a sense. Would they ever care enough to ask real questions? Would they ever look beyond the surface? They never did. After Vanessa uninvited me from the retirement party, I was curious about this Derek character. The VP who was so impressive that my sister would exclude her own sister from a family event. I asked my assistant, Claire, to do some research. Derek Hutchinson, Claire reported the next morning. Age 34. Currently VP of Operations at Meridian Consulting Group. MBA from Wharton. Undergrad from Cornell. He's been at Meridian for 6 years, worked his way up from associate to VP. Compensation. Public records show Meridian VPs make between $250,000 and $400,000, depending on performance and client load. Based on his LinkedIn, he manages a team of 12 consultants. Current projects? Hard to say from public information. Meridian does operational consulting for mid-sized companies. Process improvement, cost reduction, that sort of thing. Anything else? Claire hesitated. He's very active on LinkedIn. Posts a lot about leadership and excellence. Lots of photos at networking events and conferences. He seems very image-conscious. Interesting. Thanks, Claire. After she left, I thought about Derek Hutchinson, VP of Operations, making maybe $350,000 a year, driving a leased Porsche, dating my sister, who worked in marketing, making $80,000. Together, they probably made about $430,000 a year combined. I made that in dividends every 6 weeks. But I was the embarrassment. The following Monday morning, I had an executive team meeting scheduled for 9 a.m. We were finalizing integration plans for our Ohio acquisition and reviewing Q3 performance across the portfolio. I arrived at Stratton's offices at 7:30 a.m., as usual. Our headquarters occupied 3 floors of a premium office tower downtown. My office was on the top floor, corner position, with windows overlooking the harbor. At 8:45, I headed to the executive boardroom for the team meeting. Our CFO, COO, general counsel, and 3 portfolio company CEOs would be attending. Standard quarterly review. Claire stopped me in the hallway. Lauren, I need to mention something. We have a new consultant starting today. Derek Hutchinson from Meridian Consulting Group. He's been hired to do an operational assessment of our portfolio management processes. I stopped walking. Derek Hutchinson?
Yes.
Do you know him? He's dating my sister. She doesn't know I run Stratton. Claire's eyes widened. Oh my God. Does he know? No idea. When does he start? He's supposed to be here at 9 for an orientation meeting with the COO. Then he's sitting in on the executive team meeting at 9:30 to get a sense of our operations. I check my watch. 8:47 a.m. This is going to be interesting, I said. At 9 a.m., I was in my office when Claire buzzed me. Derek Hutchinson is here. Jim is giving him the office tour and orientation. They'll be heading to the boardroom around 9:25. Perfect. I'll meet them there. At 9:28, I walked into the executive boardroom. My CFO, general counsel, and 2 of the portfolio CEOs were already seated. Jim, our COO, was standing near the door, talking to someone I couldn't see yet. I took my seat at the head of the table and opened my laptop. Jim walked in with Derek Hutchinson behind him. Derek was tall, good-looking, wearing an expensive suit. He had the confident air of someone used to being the smartest person in the room. Jim gestured to me. Derek, I'd like you to meet our CEO and founder, Lauren Chin. Derek looked up from his phone. His face went completely white. He said. Hello, Derek. Welcome to Stratton Industrial Holdings. You're the CEO? Founder and CEO, yes. I started Stratton 9 years ago. We're a private equity firm focused on manufacturing and industrial companies. I believe Jim mentioned that in your orientation? Derek was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. But you're a teacher. You teach elementary school. The room went silent. My executive team was looking at Derek with confusion. I'm sorry, I said pleasantly. Vanessa said, your sister said you're a teacher. You live in a small apartment and drive an old Honda, and you grade papers on weekends. I said. There's been a misunderstanding. I'm not a teacher, Derek. I'm the CEO of a private equity firm with a $1.8 billion portfolio. Please have a seat. We have a lot to cover this morning. Derek didn't move. He was still staring at me. This isn't possible, he muttered. You can't be, Vanessa said. Jim touched his arm. Derek, why don't you sit down? We need to start the meeting. Derek sat down mechanically, still staring at me. I smiled at the room. Let's begin. CFO, can you walk us through Q3 performance? For the next 90 minutes, I ran the meeting while Derek sat frozen in his chair. We reviewed financial performance, discussed integration timelines for the Ohio acquisition, debated strategic priorities for Q4. I asked pointed questions. I challenged assumptions. I made decisions about resource allocation and capital deployment. I was, in short, very obviously the person in charge. Derek didn't say a word the entire meeting. When we finished, everyone filed out except Derek. He remained seated, staring at the table. I closed my laptop and looked at him. Derek, we should talk. He looked up. Does Vanessa know that I run a private equity firm worth $1.8 billion?
No.
She thinks I teach elementary school. Why? Because 9 years ago, when I tried to explain what I did, my family wasn't interested. They wanted me to have a simple job they could understand. So I let them believe I had one. But you're on the executive team. You're making major decisions about hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes. And Vanessa thinks you live in a tiny apartment and can barely pay your bills. I live in a penthouse that costs $4 million. But I've never corrected her assumption. Derek stood up, pacing. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. I'm dating your sister. She uninvited you from your father's retirement party because she said having a teacher there would make her look unsuccessful compared to me, a VP at a consulting firm. Yes, that's what she told me. But you're worth what? Hundreds of millions. Approximately 430 million, yes. He sat down again hard. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is the most embarrassing moment of my life. Why is it embarrassing, Derek? Because Vanessa and we thought we were the successful ones in the family. We thought we were doing so well. My VP title, her marketing director position, our nice cars and nice clothes and nice restaurants. We felt superior. I know. And the whole time, you were running a billion-dollar company. 1.8 billion, but yes. He put his head in his hands. Vanessa is going to die when she finds out. Is she? He looked up. You're not going to tell her? I haven't decided yet. But I'm curious. What are you going to do? What do you mean? Well, you're here as a consultant. You're supposed to be assessing our operational processes. Can you do that job knowing that the CEO is your girlfriend's sister? The sister she uninvited from a family event because you'd be there? Derek's face went red. I didn't know about the uninviting. I swear. Vanessa just said it was going to be a small family thing, and you couldn't make it. She lied to you. Apparently.
Jesus Christ.
He stood up again. I should quit this consulting engagement. This is too weird. That's your choice. But Derek, let me be clear. If you stay on this engagement, you'll be working for me. You'll report to my COO, but ultimately, I'm the one evaluating your work.
Can you handle that?
I don't know. Think about it. You have until end of day to decide.
If you quit, fine.
If you stay, I expect professional excellence. Nothing less. He nodded and left. I sat in the boardroom for a few minutes after he was gone, smiling. Then I called Claire. Can you get me the contact information for the retirement party venue? I think I might want to make a reservation after all. Derek didn't quit. Over the next week, he showed up every day, did his work, and avoided eye contact with me as much as possible. He was competent, I'd give him that. His operational assessment was thorough and insightful. But he was clearly miserable. On Friday, I called him into my office. Derek, sit down. He sat, looking like a man facing execution. I've reviewed your preliminary findings. They're good. You've identified some real inefficiencies in our portfolio management reporting systems. Thank you. But I can tell you're uncomfortable. So, I'm going to make this easy for you. I'm not going to tell Vanessa who I am or what I do. You can tell her if you choose. Or not. That's your decision. Why wouldn't you tell her? Because I'm curious to see what she does at Dad's retirement party tomorrow. Whether she notices anything. Whether anyone in my family finally asks the right questions. You're going to the party?
I am now.
I had my assistant make arrangements. I'll be there. Derek looked panicked. Vanessa is going to see you. She's going to introduce me to everyone. She's going to what? Introduce you to her family? Including her sister, who she uninvited? This is going to be a disaster. Probably. But it's a disaster of Vanessa's making, not mine. What do you want me to do? Whatever you think is right, Derek. I'm not going to tell you how to handle your relationship. But I will say this. If you and Vanessa build a relationship on false assumptions and superficial judgments, it's not going to last. At some point, the truth comes out. Better to deal with it now. He left my office looking deeply troubled. I didn't envy him the conversation he'd have to have with Vanessa. If he had it at all. Saturday evening, I dressed carefully for my father's retirement party. Not as a teacher would dress. As a CEO worth $430 million would dress. I wore a custom-tailored black dress that had cost $8,000. Louboutin heels. A Cartier watch. Diamond earrings that had cost more than Vanessa's car. I had my hair and makeup professionally done. I looked powerful, successful, and absolutely nothing like an elementary school teacher. I drove to the country club in my Mercedes S-Class, the car I actually drove daily, not the old Honda. The party was in the main ballroom. Approximately 150 guests, my father's colleagues from the law firm, friends from the club, extended family. I walked in at 7:15 p.m. My mother saw me first. She was standing near the entrance, greeting guests. Her face registered confusion, then shock. Lauren? Hi, Mom. What? What are you doing here? You weren't. We thought. Thought what? That I'd skip Dad's retirement party. But Vanessa said. Vanessa uninvited me because she thought I'd embarrass her in front of her boyfriend. I decided to come anyway. My father appeared, looking equally confused. Lauren, you look different. Different how? I don't know. More polished? What are you wearing?
A dress.
Do you like it? Before he could answer, Vanessa's voice cut through the conversation. Lauren, what the hell are you doing here? I turned. Vanessa was walking toward me, Derek trailing behind her. She looked furious.
Hi, V.
I came to celebrate Dad's retirement. But I told you not to come. I specifically told you. You uninvited me because you were ashamed of me. I decided not to let your shame dictate my choices. Vanessa looked at my outfit, my jewelry, my entire appearance. Where did you get those clothes? You can't afford clothes like that on a teacher's salary. You're right. I can't. Then how? Derek stepped forward. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past week. Vanessa, we need to talk. Not now, Derek. I'm dealing with my sister crashing the party. Vanessa. His voice was firm. We need to talk.
Now.
Something in his tone made her stop. What's wrong? Derek looked at me. I nodded. Your sister isn't a teacher, Derek said quietly. She's the CEO of Stratton Industrial Holdings, the company I've been consulting for all week. Vanessa stared at him. What are you talking about? Lauren is the founder and CEO of a private equity firm worth $1.8 billion. She's worth approximately $430 million. She's one of the most successful people in the industry. The silence was absolute. My mother's face had gone white. My father looked like he'd been struck by lightning. Vanessa looked at me. That's not possible. You teach elementary school. You live in a tiny apartment. You drive that old Honda. I live in a $4 million penthouse overlooking the harbor. I drive a Mercedes S-Class. And I haven't taught elementary school a day in my life. I let you believe that because 9 years ago, when I tried to explain what I actually did, none of you cared enough to listen. But you talk about your students. I talk vaguely about work in ways that let you hear what you want to hear. You assumed I meant students. I meant my portfolio companies. When I said I was grading papers, I meant reviewing financial reports. You never asked for details because you weren't interested. My father found his voice. You've been lying to us for 9 years. I haven't lied once, Dad. I told you I started a private equity firm. You said it sounded risky and suggested I get a stable job. When you asked what I was doing for work 6 months later, I said still with the investment firm. You stopped asking after that. I let you believe what you wanted to believe. By now, we had an audience. Other party guests were watching, listening. My father's senior partner from the law firm stepped forward. Lauren Chen? You're Lawrence Chen's daughter? Yes. I heard you speak at the Private Equity Council conference last year. Your presentation on operational value creation in manufacturing acquisitions was brilliant. I had no idea you were Lawrence's daughter. My father looked stunned. You spoke at a conference? Multiple conferences, Dad. I've been featured in Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and Private Equity International. I'm on several industry advisory boards. I've built one of the most successful private equity firms in the region. You never knew because you never asked. Vanessa was crying now. Why didn't you tell us? I tried, V. 9 years ago, I tried to explain what I was doing. You told me I should have stayed at Goldman, that private equity was too risky. Mom suggested I become a teacher because it was more stable. Dad said I was being foolish. So I stopped trying to make you understand and just lived my life. But you let us think you were struggling. You let us feel sorry for you. Did you feel sorry for me? Or did you feel superior? Because from where I'm standing, you've spent the past 3 months bragging about Derek's VP title and your marketing director position. You uninvited me from Dad's retirement party because you thought having a teacher there would make you look unsuccessful by comparison. Derek spoke quietly. She's right, Vanessa. You told me your sister was kind of a loser, that she couldn't get her life together, that she lived in a dump and barely made ends meet. But the whole time, she was running a billion-dollar company. 1.8 billion, I corrected gently. My mother sat down heavily in a nearby chair. I can't believe this. I can't believe we didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't want to know, Mom. You wanted me to fit into a box you understood.
Teacher.
Struggling. Simple. When I didn't fit that box, you tried to reshape me instead of expanding your understanding. My father's colleague spoke again. Lawrence, your daughter is remarkable. Stratton Industrial Holdings has one of the best track records in the industry. She's created enormous value for her investors and transformed struggling companies into profitable enterprises. You should be incredibly proud. My father looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. I don't understand, he said quietly. Why wouldn't you want us to know? I wanted you to ask, Dad. I wanted you to care enough about my life to look beyond surface assumptions. But you never did. So I built my empire in plain sight, and you never noticed. The party continued awkwardly after that. Some guests came up to congratulate me, having recognized my name from industry publications. Others avoided me entirely, clearly uncomfortable with the family drama. Vanessa disappeared into the bathroom for 30 minutes. Derek stood alone near the bar, looking miserable. My parents tried to act normal, but they kept staring at me like they'd never seen me before. Around 9 p.m., my father asked if we could talk privately. We went to a small sitting room off the main ballroom. I owe you an apology, he said. For what specifically? For not seeing you. For not asking questions. For assuming I knew who you were without actually knowing anything about your life. Go on. When you left Goldman to start your firm, I thought you were making a mistake. I thought you were throwing away a stable career for a pipe dream. So, I dismissed it. I dismissed you. Yes, you did. And when we thought you were teaching, I felt relieved. Like finally you'd settled down into something I could understand. Something safe and simple. Something that made you comfortable. Yes. He looked ashamed. I realized now that I was being incredibly selfish. I wanted you to have a life I understood, not the life you wanted. Do you know what the worst part was, Dad? Tell me. The worst part was that I was succeeding beyond my wildest dreams, and the people who were supposed to be proudest of me didn't even notice. I closed my first major acquisition the same month you asked me when I was going to get a real job. I made my first $100 million the year you suggested I look into teaching because it was more stable. I've built something extraordinary, and my own family was too busy pitying me to see it. He was crying now.
Actual tears.
I'm so sorry, Lauren. I failed you. I failed you completely.
Yes.
You did. Is there any way to fix this? I don't know, Dad. What I know is that for 9 years, I gave you opportunities to ask real questions about my life. You never took them. I'm not going to educate you about my success or beg for your approval. If you want to know me, the real me, you're going to have to put in the work. I'll do it, whatever it takes. We'll see. 2 weeks after the retirement party, Derek quit the consulting engagement at Stratton. I can't work for my girlfriend's sister, he explained to Jim. Especially after what happened. It's too complicated. Jim accepted his resignation and hired a different firm to complete the operational assessment. Derek and Vanessa broke up 3 days later. According to my mother, who'd been calling me daily, trying to rebuild the relationship, Derek had told Vanessa that he couldn't be with someone who judged people so superficially and treated her own family with such contempt. Vanessa is devastated, Mom reported. She really loved him. Did she love him, or did she love his VP title and Wharton MBA? Silence on the other end of the line. That's not fair, Lauren. Isn't it? She was willing to exclude her own sister from a family event to impress a boyfriend she'd known for 3 months. What does that tell you about her priorities? She's ashamed. She wants to talk to you. I'm not ready. When will you be ready? I don't know, Mom. Maybe when she apologizes for judging me based on what car I drive and where she thought I lived. Maybe when she acknowledges that she valued appearances over substance. Maybe when she demonstrates that she's actually changed and not just embarrassed she got caught. My mother sighed. You're being very hard on us. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, I spent 9 years being exactly who I am while you all projected your assumptions onto me. I didn't lie. I didn't hide. I just didn't correct your false beliefs because you never cared enough to question them. That's not entirely fair. Mom, I have to go. I have a board meeting. I hung up. 3 months after my father's retirement party, my relationship with my family is slowly, painfully rebuilding. My father and I have lunch once a month. He asks about Stratton now, real questions about our strategy, our portfolio, our challenges. He doesn't understand everything, but he's trying. Last week, he said, I mentioned your work to a colleague who's looking to sell his manufacturing company. I gave him your contact information. I hope that's okay. It's perfect, Dad. Thank you. I'm proud of you, Lauren. I should have said that years ago. My mother is trying harder. She's joined the board of a nonprofit that supports women entrepreneurs. She asked me to speak at one of their events. I want to learn about your world, she said. I want to understand what you've built. Vanessa is a different story. We've met for coffee twice. Both times were awkward. She apologized, sort of. I'm sorry I didn't see who you really were, she said. Are you sorry you didn't see it? Or, are you sorry I turned out to be more successful than you expected? She didn't have a good answer. Lauren, what do you want from me? I want you to understand that success isn't about titles or cars or designer clothes. I want you to understand that you dismissed me based on superficial markers while I was building something real. And I want you to examine why you value appearances over substance. That's a lot to ask. It's the bare minimum, V. We're not close yet. Maybe we won't ever be. But she's trying, in her own limited way. Last week, I was invited to speak at a private equity council conference about value creation in industrial companies. My father asked if he could attend. You want to come to a private equity conference? I want to see you in your element. I want to understand what you do. Really understand it. It's going to be very technical, Dad. Lots of industry jargon. I'll manage. He sat in the audience while I gave a 40-minute presentation on operational improvements in manufacturing acquisitions. I showed case studies from our portfolio companies. I discussed our approach to due diligence, value creation, and exit strategy. The audience, mostly seasoned private equity professionals, asked tough questions. I answered them all confidently, drawing on 9 years of experience. After the presentation, my father waited while I networked with other attendees. Several people approached me about potential deals. A few investors asked about our next fundraise. When the crowd thinned, Dad came up to me. That was incredible, he said quietly. Thanks. I had no idea. I mean, I knew you were successful after the retirement party. But seeing you up there, commanding that room, fielding those complex questions, I had no idea how much you know. How much you've accomplished. Now you do. I'm sorry I missed the first 9 years. I'm sorry I wasn't there for your first acquisition, your first fundraise, your first big exit. I'm sorry I was so wrapped up in my own assumptions that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. I appreciate that, Dad. Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Why did you finally decide to tell us? Why at the retirement party?
I thought about that.
Because Vanessa crossed a line. She didn't just assume I was unsuccessful, she actively excluded me because of that assumption. She made my supposed failure about her image. That was the moment I realized this needed to end. By humiliating us in front of everyone? By telling the truth in front of everyone. There's a difference.
I didn't humiliate you, Dad.
I just stopped protecting you from your own assumptions. He nodded slowly. You're right. And we deserved it. Yes, you did. What now? Now you keep showing up. You keep asking questions. You keep trying to know me. And maybe, eventually, we rebuild something real. I'd like that. Me too. It's been 6 months since my father's retirement party. Derek Hutchinson is engaged to someone else. a woman he met at a charity event who works in nonprofit management. According to the mutual friend who told me, he learned his lesson about valuing substance over status. Vanessa is single and, according to my mother, working on herself. She started therapy to examine why she values external markers of success so highly. I hope it helps. My parents and I have dinner once a month. They ask about my work. They've visited Stratton's offices. They've met my team. My mother even invested in our next fund, a small amount, but symbolic. Last week, my father introduced me to someone as my daughter, the CEO of Stratton Industrial Holdings. Not my daughter, who teaches elementary school. Not my daughter, who we thought was struggling. Just the CEO. It was the first time he'd introduced me that way. It felt like progress. I'm still not close with Vanessa. Maybe we won't ever be. But I've made peace with that. Not everyone in your family has to understand you or value you. Sometimes love from a distance is enough. What I've learned is this. People will believe what they want to believe about you. They'll project their assumptions, their hopes, their fears onto you. You can spend your whole life trying to correct those assumptions. Or you can just live your truth and let them catch up when they're ready. I chose the latter. For 9 years, I built an empire while my family thought I was grading spelling tests. They thought I was the unsuccessful one. I was the one running the boardroom where my sister's boyfriend showed up for his first day and discovered the truth. I was always successful. They just weren't looking. Now they are. And that's their journey, not mine. The end. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living your truth while others slowly realize they've been wrong about you all along. My family thought I was a struggling teacher. I was running a billion-dollar company. My sister's boyfriend thought he was the impressive one. Then he walked into my boardroom. The only thing that changed was their awareness.
I was always exactly who I am.
They just weren't paying attention. And by the time they finally noticed, I'd already built everything I needed, without their approval, without their support, without them. That's not revenge. That's just success.